All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Safeoclock Health and Safety Interactive Workshop. It's a pleasure to have us again this week. We are starting with our brief presentation, like we usually do. So after the presentation, the highlight of today will be giving room for each person to at least explain to us the permit to work procedure in your workplace. So this will help us to learn also, and we can pick one or two things from the procedure you implement in your workplace. And this can also help us to improve in what we have already, or maybe harmonize what we have already to get a better outcome. So that will be the highlight of today, because the permit to work procedure is the same meaning and the same reason, the same importance everywhere. But the procedure, the steps that different organizations take might differ. So we'll take time to share with each other the practical steps we implement in our workplace in regards to permit to work procedure. So that will be the highlight of today. And I believe if we're able to do that, we can be able to learn from each other and help to improve in our own procedure as well. So first of all, what is permit to work? I hope you can see my screen, right? I hope everyone can see my screen. David, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So let's look at a brief definition of permit to work. It's a formalized system that helps us to control high-risk activities in the workplace. It's formalized in the sense that it's an agreed procedure, it's an agreed method that everyone must comply with for every identified high-risk activity. So these activities could be either maintenance, either construction activities, either repair works, either maybe confined space, work at height. So all manner of high-risk activities. All manner of high-risk activities are controlled using permit to work. So permit to work is a system that helps and ensure that activities are performed safely, because before a permit is signed off, there are certain criteria, there are certain requirements that must have been met by the person receiving the permit. And this will ensure that the work activity goes safely. So this permit to work system is documented in the sense that it's kept for evidence purposes. It also documented to ensure that the trails can be traced in case something happens, or in case something needs to be corrected, in case there should be handover. So these documents are a process that helps for proper handover, for proper tracing, and for proper analysis in future, for future references. So that is why permit to work is documented. Another thing is permit to work helps to identify hazards associated with any of the activities that requires permit to work. Because before the activity is started or before the activity commences, the person taking the permit or the permit receiver must have presented the required documents, which in most cases includes job safety analysis or the risk assessment or the method statement or all the documents required to ensure that proper risk has been assessed, that the location has been assessed of necessary hazards and the risk proper control measures are all in place. And this will help to ensure that permit to work is effective and is producing the desired result. So what is the procedure? Depending on the workplace, depending on the industry, and depending on the activity also being carried out in that organization. So different organizations adopt different procedures, but in generally, a permit to work procedure is the formalized process that the organization or the workplace adopts to ensure that the job is properly analyzed and only authorized persons or authorized jobs are being carried out. So it could start from the permit requester, requesting for a permit, getting authorization by authorized person. In most cases, it's usually the main contractor. And when this, before the authorization is given, the required certificates are obtained, either isolation certificate in the event of LOTO involved, or job safety analysis, or even risk assessment. So when this permit has been, before it's been authorized, it should be validated in the sense that those control measures that has been mentioned in the permit should have been implemented in the workplace and verified. So after the verification, it can go ahead to authorize the permit. Now the permit remains with the permit holder or the permit receiver during the period of that activity. And after that has been done, before the permit is closed or before the permit is properly handed over to the permit coordinator or the permit issuer, the workplace is also reassessed to ensure that the control measures are also in place, or maybe the location has been reinstated, or maybe anything that needs to be restored has been properly done before the permit is closed. So it could vary depending on the workplace, depending on the industry. So this could be a template of the procedure that the organization may adapt. So what are the purpose for permit? The purpose is to ensure that the high-risk activities are carried out safely and ensuring that all precautions are in place. Because without permit to work, people can start from anywhere, start job at any time without having the precautions in place. So permit is a system that helps to coordinate or to control or to prevent this type of uncertainties because of no procedure in place. So the key objectives of a permit to work is to identify hazards and risk, to give authorization and ensure that there is control in the work activities, and to ensure communication, because the permit receiver, the permit issuer, the permit authorization, these are forms of communication, because before each can be successfully implemented, the people involved must have communicated, they must have related with each other. So a permit is a way of ensuring proper communication and coordination between the two parties involved, both the main contractor, the subcontractor, the permit issuer, the permit receiver, and even the permit authorizer. So it's also a way of communication. It also helps in monitoring and review. So with permit to work, you can adequately monitor that activity. You will know the certain activities that are going on. You know the number of activities you have at a particular time. You know the location. You know who are the responsible people. So monitoring is made effective or efficient with use of permit to work. Now let's look at some of the circumstances or events when permit to work is required. One of them could be during maintenance work. So We know in process industries, if machines or equipment should be maintained, then in order to prevent people using it during that maintenance, so permit to work should be implemented to ensure that those performing the activities in those areas has been properly briefed, that they have proper control measures in place, and that people will not start up those machines during that maintenance activity. The permit can also be required during demolition work to ensure that nobody is trapped in those locations, to ensure that nobody is in those vicinity. And if authorization is required from maybe the government or the local authorities, so this needs to be considered during demolition and construction activities. Hot work activities as well. All the activities that generate flames or sparks or have tendency of causing fire outbreak, they come under hot work activities. So this type of activity require permit to work. And this permit to work will ensure that the people doing the job are competent, the location is safe, and there's proper fire prevention and fire fighting equipment in place. Also, in locations involving hazardous substances or activities involving hazardous substances, maybe in the confined space or maybe where there will be activities involving gases release. So this type of activities also require permit to work for each proper control, communication, monitoring, and review. Also in confined space activities where there's tendencies of hazardous substances being present, or where there are limited access of egress, access and egress. So in such situations, permit to work is also relevant, and it will help to ensure that all identified hazards are taken care of, are properly controlled before people are allowed to engage in that activity. So there are different people involved in this permit to work procedure, and their roles include, we have a permit requester. So in some settings and in most settings, we have a permit requester, which is the person that initiates the permit. He's the person maybe that will be carrying out the activity or is responsible for the activity. So this person requests for the permit. So for you to be a permit requester in most organizations, you must also be competent. You must have gone through the training of permit to work procedure of that organization, and you must have understood how the permit to work management system operates in that organization. So that is the role of permit requester. Another key person is permit issuer. So this person is could also be part of the main contractor, who ensures that the permit requester has provided all necessary control measures in place before the permit is finally issued. So the permit issuer could have ensured that all requirements, all the permit requirements, all the control measures, all the hazard has been taken care of before the permit is issued. Then the permit approver. So this is the person that finally signs off the permit, and he has the authority to suspend the permit at any point in time. And most times he relies on the information from the permit issuer or permit requester to ensure that all the requirements or all the parameters necessary to ensure that safe work activity is in place before he approves the permit. So supervisor is the person that will monitor the activity, ensuring that all the requirements of the permit or all the conditions on the permit is maintained throughout that activity, not just from the beginning, but even while the activity is going on. The worker is the person who is directly involved in that activity, the person who directly carries out the activity. So he also should know all the arrangements in the permit. He should be aware of all the conditions involved in that permit You should also be aware of the hazards, the risk, the control measures that has been implemented in place to prevent any incident. So other personnel, that is people that are working around those vicinity or people within the same environment that could be affected by the activities, that's activity. So these are the people that are referred to as other personnel. So most times they should also be aware of certain activities that could affect them, even though they are not directly involved in that activity as well. So content of a permit, depending on the activity, the content could vary. So one of the basic contents of every permit is the description of the task. So in that permit, the permit requester must have written the type of activity they are going to do, the task they are going to be carrying out with briefly. Then the exact location where the activity will be carried out, that will be contained in the permit. Details of the work party or tools, the equipment that they are going to use. It should also contain the hazards. In most cases, it comes in form of checklist where you check and tick the hazards that you are associated with that activity. Then the control measures that have been implemented to prevent incidents, the type of PPEs required to be carrying out in carrying out that activity. Then the other people or other personnel that have been notified in the event of that activity. So the time duration, most all permits have a time duration. Some are not permitted to last more than a shift. Some could be extended after a shift. So the time duration for that job is also indicated in every permit. Then the permit issuer and the permit receiver's signature is also contained in the permit. Handover, in case the shift is extended, in case the permit is extended to the next shift, the column for handover, who takes over, and all those are part of what is included in the typical permit to work document. So before a permit is issued or to ensure the effective permit to work procedure, these are certain things that should be in place. Before the permit is obtained or is requested, there should be proper planning, identification of hazard, risk assessment should be in place, risk controls should be implemented, and then the permit is applied. Then, while identifying the hazards, the severity of the risk should be properly assessed. The probability of incidents occurring, the risk reduction measures, and the continuous monitoring methods should also be put into consideration. And while implementing the permit to work controls, we should be considering the hierarchy of controls, starting from either elimination, administrative, engineering controls, and PPE being the last resort. So these are the considerations that any permit requester should have in mind before going ahead to request a permit. So before the permit is issued, the issuing authority or the approving authority should properly review the permit application, ensuring that the location is in place, the duration, the requester's name, the hazards that are properly identified, and the control measures are properly in place. So the issuing or the approving authority should ensure that these are properly in place. Then the monitoring. When the permit has been issued, it should not just be left until the end of the job. There should be routine inspection of the workplace to ensure that the control measures implemented from the beginning are still intact, and to ensure that the workers are following the safe working procedure. So monitoring, reviewing of the work activities should be ongoing until the end of the activity. Then the last phase is the closing of the permit or termination of that permit. So before closing of the permit, the area should be properly inspected. most in better situation jointly by both the permit requester and the permit issuer to ensure that the area is safe, the location has been restored, the fire prevention measures are all in place, and this will ensure that there will be no post-work incident after the permit has been closed. So if these are all in place, the permit can be successfully closed. So like I said from the beginning, what we would like to hear from each other is the sequence or the procedures that you follow in your workplace in implementing permit to work. So this will help us to learn from your practical implementation. We can pick one or two things, add to what we do, and from there we can improve ourselves. So thank you guys for your time in this brief description. I will now leave the floor open for anyone to pick up from there. Thank you. Yeah, so the floor is open for contributions.
Hello and good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Justin.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. Quite a detailed and a brilliant presentation. The few additions I want to add is that the area of permit to work suspension and as well as identification of work location. Like you rightly mentioned, permit to work can be suspended if the activity has not been completed. Perhaps it is the end of the day shift and everyone needs to close and go home. You suspend the permit and the next day it will be reopened. And then there is another condition that requires the suspension of a permit. If during the day an inclement weather condition ensued, for instance, as the day goes on, suddenly there is a heavy rainfall or there is a very serious sandstorm. Whenever any of these conditions ensued, the permit must be suspended and everybody have to vacate the site until a normal work weather condition restore. And before we begin work again after the inclement weather condition has passed, the risk assessment will have to be reviewed. Perhaps it was dry and sunny where the work started in the morning, and now it has rained and the site is flooded. So the risk assessment will have to be reviewed. This new hazard will have to be looked into and addressed. And say will be communicated to the workers before work will resume again for that day, if there is a time left to work before the end of the day. Then with regards to identification of work location, for a very small site, it will be very easy for the permit coordinator, I believe is the person you are referring to as the permit issuer. The moment you hand over the permit to work documents to him or her, he looks through and mentally is able to visualize where that particular work is taking place. When you have 2, 3 permit to work or 10, that is not much of a big deal. But when you are covering a very large site, and you have about 50 to 100 permit to work to be issued during the day. In order to avoid work activities clashing at the same location, in which case the simultaneous operation needs to be identified. And how do you easily identify this? In the permit to work office, there will be an A1 size or A0 size display board. On this display board, the site layout plan will be placed on it. And magnetic discs are used to identify what work activity is taking place at what location. And these magnetic discs, they are color coded as per the color of the permit to work. For instance, code work, work with a spark potential at naked flame. So we are looking at a blue color for code work, hot work, work with a spark potential yellow, which is warning, and the naked flame red. So if Mr. Peter brings a permit to work and he wants to work at area A7, then shortly after, Paul brings another permit to work. He's also going to work in area A7. Then the permit coordinator, he discusses with the various permit to work applicants, or if one has already gone out and the second one is just coming in, this is the board here. Show me where you are carrying out this work. Oh, we are carrying it out here. I know you cannot do this work here because somebody is already working there. A permit has already been issued. So I will suggest you identify any other activity you can carry out in another location, pending when the first person finishes his or her own. Then you can come back and we will issue permit for you to work in this place. If that is not done, there will be a clash which could result in an injury or equipment damage on site. So this is one of the easiest ways of avoiding simultaneous work activities on a work site. So these are the few input I wish to add to what you have presented. Once again, thank you so much for your brilliant presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jason, for your wonderful input as always. So I thank you all. Thank you for as always. I want to read out what Mr. Valentine has typed. He said he's in a noisy background, so he cannot talk. So he said, however, it is important for all to understand that permit to work is legal document. Any person signing, authorizing, issuing, holding, supervising, or coordinating permit to work must understand that they can be held responsible and accountable for their actions, inactions on permit management. And this can be tendered as a legal document in court and in event of an incident arising from this. So thank you very much, Mr. Valentine. This is well noted, and it's very, very important that we bear this in mind, because some people think that permit to work is just a paperwork or a document that you can just deal with anyhow. Some people even fold the paper and put it in their pocket. Some people even go as far as tearing the paper when they are not in need of it, or when they think that they finish, without submitting it back and keeping it as a record. So permit to work is a legal document and should be handled as such. And whoever signs, I've seen in a situation whereby somebody forged an engineer signature. Somebody who is supposed to be permit approver. The person who is supposed to approve the permit, he was not available. He went as far as forging his signature to approve the permit. So this has a lot of legal implications. So he's saying that we should remember that permit to work is a legal document and can lead to other legal implications as far as we know, including imprisonment. So thank you, Mr. Valentine, for that reminder and for that input. The floor is also open for others to contribute. Can we get input from others?
Hello.
Yeah,
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome.
Yes, yes, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, I wasn't at the beginning of the meeting, though, but I believe when you send the video, I'm going to replay. When you send the YouTube link, I'm going to replay whatever has been discussed. Well, I came in when the last speaker was speaking. Just wanted to say that yes, of course, permit to work. Yeah, we don't joke with it. People will just want to sign in place of some people, sign in place of whoever is supposed to append the signature on that area, and this is very wrong. In safety, not until accident happens, we don't know the level at which we are operating. When an accident happens, then you now see the implication of signing in place of someone. So permit to work is a legal document, and jobs that involves high risk are jobs in which we use this permit to work for, and highly controlled job that whose consequences result to serious accidents or even death. So we should take it very serious in our workplaces. A permit to work can either mar or what, or make someone. So we should put it in a place. Put its usage. It's a good usage, because we want to be efficient now usage of this document. Why? Because if we are not careful on how we use this document, then this thing can put people into problems. That's the little thing I've got to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Majede. While we are talking, I remembered something. I remembered an incident that happened in one of my previous work location, that somebody went as far as starting a job without a permit to work. And his defense was that he did the activity there yesterday. So it's the same thing today, that nothing has changed. So he doesn't need to come for, he doesn't need to obtain a new permit. So, but that is an argument that we should not tolerate. As far as the permit has elapsed and a shift has elapsed, there is possibility of changes occurring in that work location, and it must be reassessed before a permit is issued and before any activity is commenced in that location. So that is an additional thing I wanted to add. The floor is still open for anyone that wants to add something before we close.
Let me just say something here. Yes, what you've said is right. I just want to say something. In some sites, you find out that people, site checkers, they're supposed to check sites before they issue a permit. They don't really check sites. They do what we call office issuing of permits. This is very wrong. A site checker is supposed to go and see whether those things, those are restrictions you say they place on site before the commencement of the work, they are verified. Understand? Verified, and make sure that those restrictions are really in place before signatures are being appended. So a site checker just being in an office and saying yes, all the necessary isolations have been made. It's not a good one. You understand? So we go to site, verify that these isolations have been made, and before these permits are being issued, for work to commence by the work team lead. So that's the little contribution I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is very, very, very important. Do not assume that a supervisor or that engineer is telling you the truth. Most of them, they just want to take shortcuts. They just want to bypass everything. So they will tell you this already there, this already implemented, this already implemented. Do not believe them. If you are the one issuing the permit or you are the one responsible for checking the location, make sure you go there, check it yourself and see it with your eyes before you agree that those measures or those control measures are in place, because they can deceive you. And when an accident happens, the signatures on the document becomes accountable. You are accountable whether you verified it or not. Do we have any further contribution?
Yes, I was going to add something brief before you came online again. Talking about permit to work being a legal document. Yes, it is. Statutorily, every closed permit to work is required to be stored for a period of not less than 5 years before you can discard it. That is even long after the project has been completed. The permit to work will have to be kept. And that is in case of any issue coming up anytime within this period of 5 years. Yes, you can take them off. That is the statutory requirement.
Thank you very much. That is very, very, very correct, and that is nice you brought it up. In my one of the projects I did, I was a permit coordinator. We have a very big house, a very big room where we store use permit or closed permit. If you go in there, you'll be wondering what is happening here, because that was a very massive project that in a day we issue more than 50 pieces of permit. So if you calculate it for like 3 years, you see the number of permits that we have issued. So we had a big warehouse where we stored those documents, as you rightly mentioned. It should be stored for a period of time because of in case something comes up, in case there is legal requirements, or in case there is maybe a court case that requires those evidence to be presented. It's even insurance, for insurance purposes. Some insurance is we need to see those documents to confirm that those things you are claiming we are also in place. So thank you for bringing that up. Do you have any further addition? Okay, I believe that others, they concur with what we've said, so they don't want to keep repeating what we have already said. So that is why it looks like there is no further contribution. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you for your time. We really appreciate those that have contributed. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. So next week we have another session. So just keep your phone open. I will share the topic well on time. This week I shared it late, but for next week, I will share it on time. So thank you all for joining, and do have a nice night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.